Muy buenos días a todas y a todos. En primer lugar, queremos saludar de manera especial a nuestras distinguidas autoridades internacionales, nacionales y regionales que nos honran con su presencia en esta jornada. Señor Delegado Presidencial Regional de Magallanes, señor José Antonio Ruiz Pizzivich, a los secretarios regionales ministeriales, señor Alcalde de Punta Arenas, señor Claudio Radonich, cónsules extranjeros, representantes de las Fuerzas Armadas, directores de servicio, representantes del mundo académico, estudiantes y público en general. Extendemos un cordial saludo a las y los investigadores polares que nos acompañan hoy, así como a las y los representantes de instituciones públicas y privadas vinculadas al quehacer antártico. Es un honor darle la más cálida de las bienvenidas al 14º Simposio Internacional sobre Ciencias de la Tierra Antártica, XIV 2025, organizado por el Comité Científico de Investigación Antártica e INACH. Este año, Punta Arenas tiene el privilegio de recibir a especialistas de distintas áreas de la investigación polar, quienes se reunirán desde el 18 al 22 de agosto para compartir conocimientos, presentar sus hallazgos más recientes y fortalecer la cooperación internacional en ciencia antártica. El simposio, que se celebra cada 4 años, aunque el último fue en prepandemia en Incheon, República de Corea, en 2019, constituye una plataforma fundamental para el intercambio de información sobre cambio climático, glaciología, geología, climatología y dinámica de ecosistemas antárticos, aportando al desarrollo de políticas ambientales y al avance del conocimiento global. Good morning, everyone. It is a great pleasure to welcome you all to Punta Arenas. It is an honor to host the 14th International Symposium on Antarctic Earth Science ISAES 2025 from the Scientific Committee on Antarctic Research SCAR. Held every 4 years, although the last symposium was held before the pandemic in Incheon, Republic of Korea in 2019, the symposium serves as a vital platform for exchanging information on climate change, glaciology, geology, climatology, and Antarctic ecosystem dynamics, contributing to the development of environmental policies and the advancement of global knowledge. Para dar inicio a la jornada, invitamos al director Gino Casasa-Rogasinski, director nacional del INACH, a compartir unas palabras de bienvenida.
Muy buenos días. Es un placer ver el inicio de este simposio largamente esperado. Ya han transcurrido 6 años desde el simposio anterior en Corea. Como bien decía Isabel, se realiza cada 4 años. Y el año pasado tuvimos también el honor de ser anfitriones del simposio del Open Science en Pucón, y luego la reunión de delegados de SCAR, el Scientific Committee on Antarctic Research, aquí en Punta Arenas. Y ahí recuerdo muy bien, me transmitieron las críticas entendibles del gobierno de la región, autoridades regionales, sin nombrar a nadie, de por qué no hacíamos una reunión aquí en Punta Arenas. Y la verdad que en Pucón había más de 1000 participantes y había un problema de sala, porque como ven, decían las autoridades regionales, hay más de 1000 camas, digamos, en la ciudad de Punta Arenas, pero no hay una sala que permita, digamos, albergar a más de 1000 personas. Así que aquí estamos, vemos la sala llena, quedó pequeña la sala, pero tenemos varias salas, hay una sala al lado y una tercera sala, así que vamos a estar toda la semana en esto. Incluso agradezco especialmente a todas las autoridades regionales, a nuestro decano consular también, la universidad con su rector y autoridades y participantes de, entiendo, 14 países. Y también me siento responsable de haber retrasado el zarpe del rompehielos Viel. Y ahí, digamos, gentilmente el almirante dispuso, y aquí está el comandante del buque, atrasar en un día el zarpe de modo de poder participar en una sesión muy especial que me permito dar un aviso hoy día 14:30, 16:10, frente a la sala de póster que va a estar, digamos, paralela, así que pueden concurrir a la sala de póster y también a esta sesión especial de las 3 ramas de las Fuerzas Armadas. Y va a haber otra sesión especial ahí en la tarde, hoy día a las 6, Rodrigo, en la misma sala 3, al fondo a la izquierda, en que también se va a hablar de la colaboración científica nacional e internacional y también con presencia del comandante director del SHOAD también. Así que muy invitados a todos a un nutrido programa esta semana. Para no extenderme tanto en inglés, voy a just a brief summary of what just I said in English. Very welcome to this symposium, and we are very glad to see a full room with people from all over the world, including the president of SCAR, Gary Wilson, and researchers from 14 different countries, as I understand. And we will be having many sessions in the program, and the program will be a poster in the first. Va a haber un póster, ¿no? Yes. Is it already hanged? No? They're working on it. Okay. There will be changes in the program as usual, but there will be a couple of posters with the latest, and there will be special sessions, so you're all cordially invited to these sessions and the poster session and all of that. So, very welcome, and tomorrow at noon there will be the, ¿cómo se dice? Zarpe, comandante? Departure of the icebreaker. You can see it at noon, so we'll all be saluting the hopefully we'll be allowed to go in here. Anyway, very welcome, and we'll hope to see you all the week engaged in earth sciences and beyond.
Muchas gracias, director, por sus palabras y por destacar el rol de Chile en la ciencia antártica. Es un placer invitar ahora a la señora Tania Pitsevich, representante de Antarctic Punta Arenas Logistics APAL, para que comparta su perspectiva sobre la importancia de Punta Arenas como puerta de entrada a la Antártica y como centro de cooperación científica. We now invite Mrs. Tania Pitsevich, representing the Antarctic Punta Arenas Logistics APAL Association, to share her perspective on the importance of Punta Arenas as a gateway to Antarctica and as a hub for scientific collaboration.
Bueno, buenos días. Como ya han dicho, mi nombre es Tania Pitsevich y yo soy la presidenta de APAL, que es la Asociación de Logísticos Antárticos de la región de Magallanes, nuestra puerta de entrada. Me gustaría agradecer primero que nada a las autoridades presentes, saludarlas, también a todos los invitados especiales y sobre todo darle una cálida bienvenida a las participantes del Simposio de la Tierra. La verdad es que, como dicen, APAL es una asociación que desarrolla servicios logísticos relacionados con Antártica y eso nos ha transformado en un hub logístico muy importante. Por eso yo quiero aprovechar de darles la bienvenida a nuestra hermosa región, que además es, como decían, puerta de entrada a Antártica. Nosotros acá en esta zona geográfica tenemos algunas ventajas importantes para poder ofrecer servicios de logística antártica que estarán, por supuesto, totalmente disponibles para ustedes. Nosotros vamos a tener un stand ubicado afuera y podemos conversar sobre todas las actividades que ustedes requieran realizar allá. La verdad es que la región de Magallanes cuenta con muchísimos servicios y más de 40 años de experiencia en logística antártica y por lo tanto estamos muy orgullosos de poder ofrecer todo tipo de actividades y lograr sinergias con el mundo de la ciencia y con otras actividades permitidas para desarrollarse en Antártica. Así que yo los invito a que vayan y nos conozcan. Nosotros esta noche también en el Icebreaker les vamos a dar una pequeña charla sobre nuestra asociación. APAL es una asociación que está compuesta por diversas actividades que desarrollan logística allá, de todos los servicios permitidos, como decía yo, tiene que ver con ciencia, con traslados en general, con turismo, etcétera. Y bueno, dicho eso, just in English a little bit, we are APAL, which you can pronounce as APAL, which means a friend. And that's exactly what we want to be for you, a friend, somebody who helps you achieve all your goals in Antarctica. We are a logistic association of companies that operate to Antarctica, and we have our base here in our gateway to Antarctica, Magallanes. So we're going to be around. Please just look into our stand outside, and this afternoon we're going to have in the Icebreaker a small presentation on our organization. So you're more than welcome to come to us, and we can help you organize some of your projects to Antarctica. So enjoy the symposium, have a great symposium, and feel very welcome to our really, really beautiful region and Antarctic Gateway. Thank you very much. Gracias.
Tenemos el honor de dar la bienvenida al alcalde de Punta Arenas, señor Claudio Andrés Radonich Jiménez, que nos dirigirá unas palabras en representación de la ciudad y sus habitantes, compartiendo el orgullo de ser sede de este importante encuentro internacional.
I prefer to speak Spanish
Spanglish, we can do it together.
for respect to the Shakespeare language. Estamos muy contentos que pueden estar acá. ¿Qué tiene en común el nato de Magallanes, Elcano,
No se ponga creativo.
Charles Darwin, Gabriela Mistral?
We're very happy to having you all here. So what do they have in common? Oh, Hernando de Magallanes,
Sebastián Elcano,
Sebastián Elcano,
Charles Darwin,
Charles Darwin,
Gabriela Mistral.
and Gabriela Mistral.
Todos vinieron a explorar acá.
They all came here to explore Punta
Todos
Arenas.
tuvieron en su momento un espacio que hasta el día de hoy nos abre la mente, y por eso que ustedes están siguiendo esta ruta que hace 500 años se abre por estas costas.
They all came here to explore Magallanes, to get inspired, I will say, by the landscape and the place. Pretty much, that's it.
We have a problem.
we have a communication problem.
No, fuera de broma, para nuestra ciudad, se ha estado vinculado con la exploración, los descubrimientos, y es un honor que tan distinguidos científicos estén en nuestra ciudad hoy.
It's a pleasure for us to have all this level of scientists and researchers and students here. So, welcome to Punta Arenas again.
Esta es una aposta que ustedes deben tomar con mucha responsabilidad. Hoy el cambio de clima nos ha generado un problema para la humanidad. No solamente buscar rutas para el comercio, sino estamos hablando de la supervivencia de nuestro planeta.
Now you're all in charge and you have to be aware of climate. They already know that they are scientists of climate change and global warming. And please, let's look forward to work together on these topics.
Su responsabilidad es gigante.
Your responsibility is huge.
Y desde esta ciudad que se abre a la ciencia, queremos dar la bienvenida y esperar que estos días sean muy fructuosos finalmente para lo que viene. Esto es una actividad continua, y qué hermoso tener en nuestra ciudad una ciudad que mantiene esta tradición de encuentro, de ciencia, de descubrimiento.
I think you all got that, right? It is going to be a full week full of science and engagement with each other.
Disfruten esta ciudad.
Enjoy the city.
Y por cierto, nosotros tenemos un rol que lo tomamos con responsabilidad.
We have a major role that we take with responsibilities.
Seguir siendo la principal puerta de entrada al continente antártico. Desde Shackleton en adelante, nuestra ciudad siempre ha tenido este rol que lo tomamos con responsabilidad, pero Bueno,
Thank you. Our major role right now as Punta Arenas is to be the major getaway city to Antarctica. I'm going to keep working on that.
disfruten nuestra ciudad y muy bienvenidos a esta ciudad antártica.
Enjoy your city and welcome to Punta Arenas.
Y lo hiciste muy bien. Clap for it.
Gracias por la presión. Te encargo de Melita. So, thank you for all that extra pressure that we don't need right now, but thanks anyways. Tenemos el honor ahora de dar la bienvenida al delegado presidencial, señor José Antonio Ruiz Pitsevich, en representación del presidente de la República en esta región de Magallanes y en la Antártica chilena. We are honored to welcome the President Delegate, Mr. José Antonio Ruiz Pitsevich, representing of our President of the Republic with the Magallanes and the Chilean Antarctic region.
Muy buenos días a todos y todas. Un honor estar aquí presente y ante todo, como bien han dicho las palabras anteriores, como nuestra región cobra un especial sentido de responsabilidad ante la ciencia antártica.
It is an honor to have you all here and to take notice how important this city is becoming for science.
La Antártica y la ciencia en general tiene una particularidad que tenemos que preservar en todos los ámbitos de la vida, que es la colaboración y sobre todo ante los desafíos científicos que bien se habían mencionado anteriormente.
I'm going to emphasize collaboration and all the new challenges on scientific matters that we have to get together as a city.
Nuestra región y ya nuestro país cobra mucho más la soberanía del Estado de Chile y el rol de nuestra región de Magallanes en la ciencia antártica, prediciendo también muchas veces comportamientos que nos aseguran la supervivencia de la humanidad. Este tipo de instancias es lo que nos fortalece y, por cierto, nos tiene que dar harta iniciativas y políticas para que los distintos países puedan aplicarla. Solamente para cerrar. Y para cerrar, quisiera aprovechar la presencia de universidades, estudiantes, para que sea una instancia de entusiasmo a la juventud para poder generar mucho más científicos en esta materia.
He would like to emphasize the presence of students and universities in this symposium and how much we want to encourage the participation and the new development of science and scientists in this region.
Bueno, muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Muy bienvenidas a la región de Magallanes y la Antártica chilena.
And welcome to Magallanes. Ahora tenemos el honor de la bienvenida al doctor Jorge Carrasco, presidente del Comité Nacional de Investigaciones Antárticas, CNIA, que nos hablará sobre la importancia de este simposio para la comunidad científica nacional e internacional. You don't need a translator, right?
Yes. Oh. Can you see me? It's too high, actually. But anyway. Distinguished authorities, dear colleague from Chile and from around the world, welcome to Punta Arenas. Holding the International Symposium on Antarctic Earth Science in Punta Arenas constitutes an event of high relevance for global polar science and Chile's Antarctic scientific activities. From the perspective of the Chilean National Committee for Antarctic Research, the organizations of this event in Punta Arenas represents a strategic opportunity to position the country as a regional leader in polar science, particularly at the critical moment in planetary history, the advance of global climate change. This event highlights the city as a getaway to the wide continent and a strategic hub for the country's polar logistics system. The Antarctic continent is a key thermoregulator of the Earth's climate system. It's not an isolated continent. What happens in the Antarctica and the southern oceans matter for all of us. Therefore, scientific knowledge about the history and dynamic of Antarctica is essential for all humankind and serve as an important factor to model the future of global climate. This event gives us the opportunity not only to consolidate Chile's scientific leadership in Antarctic science, but also contributes to addressing one of the greatest challenges of the 21st century, understanding and mitigating the impact of climate change. So, once again, welcome to this event here in Punta Arenas, and I hope that this week will be plenty of friendship and collaboration between or among us. Thank you.
Finalmente, tenemos el honor de dar la bienvenida al profesor Gary Wilson, presidente del Comité Científico de Investigación Antártica SCAR, quien compartirá sus reflexiones sobre la importancia de ISAES para la comunidad científica polar internacional. Last but not least, we are now honored to welcome Professor Gary Wilson, President of the Scientific Committee on Antarctic Research at SCAR, who will share his reflections on the significance of ISAES for the international polar science community.
Hola, buenos dias, kia ora tātou, welcome everyone. On behalf of SCAR, welcome to the 14th International Symposium on Antarctic Earth Sciences. These meetings are a very important part of the SCAR calendar, all of its science meetings. That is our purpose. We are all about science in the Antarctic, so it's great to be here. It's now over 60 years since the first ISAES Symposium, and the community is still going strong. I see that the community is in great health here for this meeting, and it's good to see the meeting well attended. I guess the work you are all doing has evolved dramatically in the time since that first meeting, shortly after the International Geophysical Year. In the early days, we saw some of the first evidence for plate tectonics from logging the rock sequences in the Transantarctic Mountains come out, and Antarctica was a key part of that. Now, highly sophisticated geophysics for mapping beneath the ice, highly sophisticated models for understanding the response of the crust and mantle and the changing ice mass, and highly sophisticated analytical techniques to calculate ages and environments where almost nothing is the same as anywhere else on Earth. You know, slow weathering processes, completely different processes in Antarctica, and you're all very aware of that. And all the time, this community continues to ground truth those models and measurements by still working with the rocks and sediments. My first SCAR meeting was the ISAES Symposium in Tokyo, Japan in 1991. I was only 5 years old. No, just kidding. I've been to every ISAES Symposium since, and I'm excited to be here again and join you all in learning about the progress. And before I finish, just a few thank yous. Of course, thank you to the organisers of the meeting. It's great to see everything ready to go. The International Steering Committee, of course, chaired by Jorge Carrasco. The local organising committee, chaired by Gino Casasa, and ably assisted by Isabel. Thank you. And thank you also to the City of Punta Arenas and the Mayor for hosting this meeting here in this gateway city to Antarctica. It's fantastic to be here. I look forward to the meeting and seeing the progress. I hope you all catch up with everyone, enjoy the science, and have a good week. Thank you very much.
Bien, con estas motivadoras palabras damos por inaugurado oficialmente el 14º International Symposium on Antarctic Earth Science, ISAES 2025. Antes de dar inicio, unas pequeñas recomendaciones. Tenemos el side event de las Fuerzas Armadas a las 2 de la tarde, salón número 3. El programa completo actualizado va a estar afuera, así que lo pueden ir chequeando constantemente, están en tamaño grande, así que lo pueden ir a revisar. Y el icebreaker es a las 8 en el Cabo de Hornos. Eso en los últimos eventos. Y la muestra de artesano de Fosis está en el hall y Harry, fotografía oficial a las 10:30. So, we have a new side event at 2:30 in room number 3 here at Dreams Hotel. The icebreaker tonight is going to be at 8 in Cabo de Hornos Hotel, downtown. The official photo is going to be here at 10:30. So that's it, and welcome, and enjoy the symposium. People stay in the room, please. We're going to start with the plenary sessions. Thank you.
folks. Okay, now I realise that I've got 45 minutes between you and coffee. It's not just me, there's a photo as well. Don't forget, straight after this, the photo outside here to record everyone here at the meeting. So I thought I'd take some time this morning to talk a little bit about SCAR, a little bit about what SCAR was doing at the Antarctic Treaty Consultative Member Meeting, ATCM, in Milan just over a month ago, and talk to some of you who are new to SCAR about some of the different programs and how to get involved. I will save my particular science talk for tomorrow in one of the sessions. So, good morning everyone. As you know, I'm the current president of SCAR, and I come to the role with more than 30 seasons working in Antarctica. In many of those seasons are working on large-scale collaborative projects, multinational projects, and I see many of my collaborators in the room, so it's pretty great to see everyone gathering again. SCAR, what we might just kick into here. So the messages we delivered at the Antarctic Treaty Consultative Meeting in July in Milan were very much with respect to the changes that we are now observing around the planet and in Antarctica also. And what I mean and what we presented with respect to a changing world is certainly about the 1.5 degree planet we now live in. I think you all are aware. We are now 1.5 degrees warmer than pre-industrial Earth, and almost all of that warming is since the International Geophysical Year, 1957, when we were seeing much of Antarctica for the first time. And we're on track. No matter how you draw this line on the graph, we are on track to be another degree warmer by 2050. And we may even be accelerating and another degree warmer within the next decade. So it's pretty poignant to stand here and talk about that rate of change. And understanding what that means is well and truly in the domain of the people in this room, the geologists and the geophysicists. You know, we have to go back in time to begin to understand what the future planet is going to look like. Back to the last interglacial, back to the Pliocene here in black in the middle of the graph, and likely beyond that, back into the Miocene. So more and more the work that you do is very relevant. And while we talk of average warming of the planet, we know that it's not uniform. It is in fact already warmer than 2 degrees across the continents. And the ocean surface is now more than 1 degree warmer. And as you also know, the poles are warming at a much faster rate, more than double in Antarctica, and more than 5 times on places like the Antarctic Peninsula. The Southern Ocean is also warming at depth, and that warmer water is potentially being advected onto the Antarctic continental shelf. And of course we're concerned about that, because when the warm water gets onto the shelf, it sinks because the centre of Antarctica is a bowl shape from the mass of the ice sheet sitting on it, and it's sinking into the grounding line of the ice shelves, leading to increased melting rates. And in Antarctica, we are already seeing, as you know, significant ice mass loss. Now more than 140 gigatons per year. That's as measured by the GRACE satellite here. And that melt is contributing, as shown on the right-hand side there, to fresh water and an increase in the amount of fresh water in the Southern Ocean. And that melt is contributing to a doubling of the rate of sea level rise over the past 3 decades. We're now at more than 4.5 millimetres per year, so nearly 5 millimetres a year. And the largest loss of ice, as you see on the diagram, is in the Amundsen Sea sector, with those parts of West Antarctic, the West Antarctic ice sheet, now committed to irreversible loss, which will contribute a further 1 to 2 metres to global sea level rise. And as I said already, the freshening of the ocean, presumably part of which is related to that melt, which is, again, now beginning to affect the production of Antarctic bottom water. And we continue to break records with extremes in annual sea ice minima and record-breaking heat waves from southward flowing atmospheric rivers now reaching well into the Antarctic. This one on the right happens to be in the winter, perhaps when we've seen temperatures many tens of degrees warmer than we would expect. And for the purposes of the Antarctic Treaty, significant impact on Antarctica's highly endemic fauna, putting the iconic species that we recognise as part of Antarctica, like the emperor penguin, on the watch list because their environment is being affected. So with that, what is SCAR doing about it? And this is available on the webpage, and it's quite a good read, actually. Our newest strategic plan, which was led by my predecessor, the previous president of SCAR, Yaedong Kim, unashamedly focuses on the challenge of global warming. Now, this plan is something we revisit every 5 years and is what guides how we as SCAR develop. So it's great to have the new science and your potential contributions to that, and indeed the next one. In SCAR, we're working at this nexus of scientific discovery, that's pretty much represented by meetings like this, understanding how the place works and how it has changed, how it works. That's the science drive. The policy need. Now, it's not just the ATCM, it is also the UN, UNFCCC and other agencies looking at the COP meetings to do with climate change and their policy needs and how they might actually utilise the science, or what science we need them to know, or what science we think they will act on. But also we're working at the global scale challenges. That's the warming I've talked about, that's biodiversity loss, and that's, of course, now geopolitics. We can't get away from the fact that our ability to do something about what's important in Antarctica is changing as rapidly as the Antarctic is now changing itself. So it's really rather important that we make some progress, and we make some progress in telling this story. So our strategy has 7 key objectives, and they're all rather important. This first one is about leading and coordinating research direction for Antarctic science, and that comes out of these meetings, that comes out of things like the Horizon Scan that many of you were part of, and hopefully you'll be part of the next one, which is going to unfold quite soon because it's now a decade since we looked at what were the important questions for Antarctica. The second part of our strategic plan is about providing that independent scientific advice from the research findings. And that is what we do at the Antarctic Treaty. You may hear about the Standing Committee on the Antarctic Treaty System, or SCATS, as we refer to them, and they are the group within SCAR that take our messages to the Antarctic Treaty and ensure that the Antarctic Treaty parties manage the Antarctic for peace and science, and that's our job as well. The third part of our plan here is really about encouraging the development of research capacity and capability across all of its members, so that's part of why these meetings happen, but also hopefully how we engage with many of you to help develop Antarctic research in your different nations. The fifth one, which I kind of touched on already, is about increasing awareness of the importance of Antarctica in the global system. So we must remember not to just come to our own meetings, we must actually take this beyond our own community and make sure that people learn widely about what's important about what we do. Point 6 down the bottom here is about our EDI program, ensuring equality, diversity and inclusion in all of our activities. And lastly, perhaps the most difficult one for us, about reducing our carbon footprint. I'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the talk. Now, we progress a lot of our science through our scientific research programs. If you don't know about some of these, I encourage you to get engaged. They are designed and they're built from the community to address major cutting-edge, globally significant, high-priority issues of fundamental importance with respect to Antarctic research and Antarctic science. And as you see on the screen there, we currently have 4 SRPs. And I'm going to share a little bit about some of their progress briefly. I'll run through them. But what I'm going to talk about is the instabilities and thresholds in Antarctica, the near-term variability and prediction of the Antarctic climate system, integrated science to inform Antarctic and Southern Ocean conservation, and then a newer one, the Antarctic Geospace and Atmospheric Research Program. So, in terms of the instant program, and I'll run through each of these in a similar sort of fashion, for those who don't know, the people to contact to find out more about this, if you're interested, Tim Naish and Florence Colleoni. You can find their contact details on the SCAR webpage. This is a program about understanding of atmosphere, ocean, and solid earth interaction. Feedbacks and rate determining processes, the things that drive instabilities and the things that limit thresholds in terms of how Antarctica works. The second part of this is about improving the skill and performance of Antarctic ice sheet models, and particularly focusing on reducing the uncertainty in the Antarctic ice mass contribution to future sea level rise. And there is plenty of uncertainty in that, as I'll show shortly. And the third part then, quantifying the potential Antarctic ice sheet contribution, not only to past, but to future sea level change. Without a doubt, sea level rise is the most unarguably biggest impact and easiest to observe change of global warming and Antarctica's contribution. And of course, then it's all about to better anticipate the risk in order to manage and adapt. So the whole programs, as you see, go full circle to actually doing something about it. So there's 3 themes within this program. Of course, atmosphere, ocean, ice interactions, solid earth and ice sheet interactions, and then the third one, the Antarctic contribution to sea level change. It's a multidisciplinary program, as they all are, and it looks from past to future and in present as well. In terms of uncertainty and sea level predictions, this is what we're talking about. By 2100, there's some uncertainty between about 0.5 and 1 metre of sea level, perhaps at 4 degrees, and we may well be at 4 degrees by 2100, if not higher, so that's highly relevant. But by 2300, who knows? That could be as much as 10. And the timing in between, that's the uncertainty that this program is focused on. So key findings so far. We know that Antarctic ice sheet contribution to global mean sea level is now accelerating. It's 3 times what it was 30 years ago. And when the world was 1.5 degrees warmer at the last interglacial, 125,000 years ago, sea level was up to 9 metres higher, and Antarctica contributed 4 to 5 metres of that. So if you need any argument to convince anyone that we need to keep doing our work and they need to pay attention, that is surely it. The future of the West Antarctic ice sheet, of course, remains highly uncertain, and surface melting is increasing and may contribute to future ice cliff instability, and of course that will have runaway effect. So we have unpredicted sea level rise and increased coastal impact from inundation, and particularly storm intensity on top of high sea levels and storm frequency. In terms of ANCLIM now, this is a program more focused on near-term variability, so the things we actually see now in prediction of the climate system. So we're within a 50-100-year window of today. The people to contact around that program are Rachel Kavanagh and Claire Ayres. Also, you can find their contacts on the webpage. This program, for those who don't know, is about advancing the understanding of Antarctic climate variability and its links to the global climate system. Very much it's focused on understanding the present day trends, being able to answer that question that everyone asks you, well, you've been to Antarctica a few times, have you seen any changes? Well, you may not have done in the places you go to, but this program will tell you a lot more about the wider continent, and it'll tell you a lot more about what we might predict in the predictability of the Antarctic climate systems. And then lastly, consider global and regional cross-disciplinary impacts. And there it is, about understanding the present-day variability and changes in the atmosphere, ocean and cryosphere to inform policy and program response. And in fact, we get the most attention when we focus in on, with the policy specialists, on what's happening now. In terms of key findings out of that program that you might want to take away, the warming trend in Antarctica in the last 25 years is linked to weakening of the southern hemisphere stratospheric polar vortex, changes in tropical climate systems and atmospheric river events. I already showed one of those with respect to warming in the winter in the Antarctic. What are the impacts of that? Ozone recovery is affected by that, and that is in turn influencing the weakening of the southern hemisphere polar vortex. Ice sheet melting and sea level rise is speeding up, and freshwater increase in its influence on sea ice and lower latitude climate is already starting to be seen. Climate change is accelerating, as I've said, in Antarctica. More frequent climate extremes across the region, things we don't expect. The Southern Ocean is warming, which may weaken its role as a major carbon sink. That's a really red flag for me, because if the planet isn't drawing down carbon, that's really unhelpful to our future. Warming and freshening of the ocean may well disrupt global ocean circulation and heat transport mechanisms. So that also will have effects. And of course, there's cascading effects on marine ecosystems. And the last slide about ANCLIM now. Warming deep water ocean water is reaching the Antarctic shelf, and of course the main driver of ice shelf melting from below. So that's something I already talked about in the opening of the talk. But we have very few measurements, and so part of this program is about that. Of course, the impact there, warming leads to ice mass loss, speed up of ice mass loss, and the meltwater can disrupt global ocean circulation patterns. It all points to the same thing. Anticon, now this program's more focused on the biological side of the SCAR science effort. Although there are a couple of contact names here, Gilda Kakavo and Daniela Liggett, I believe there's a transition in the leadership right now, so if you go to the webpage, you'll find who's running this. But this program's really looking at future projections of Antarctic systems, species and functions, so the biological side. Also looking at the impact of human activities in the Antarctic and what we might do to limit the effect of those, especially when the system's under stress from global warming already, and socio-ecological approaches. And it's really about a synthesis for decision-making and policy development. Many of the members of the Antarctic Treaty System are very concerned about managing the impacts in the future of ecosystems and particularly iconic and endemic species. And this program is about collecting that data and understanding. In terms of the program, these are the main strands of the work, facilitating and coordinating the integration of Antarctic conservation research and environmental governance. That's what the treaty looks at. Informing international policy and contributing to governance, and then increasing the awareness of policy needs with respect to the ecosystems and the wider SCAR community. Identifying vulnerable species, there's quite some discussion about that at the treaty, and assessing the threats and informing the development of mitigation strategies. And as you can see, the key findings so far, existing conservation efforts are in fact insufficient. That's no surprise, especially in an increasingly rapid and changing world. Most at risk are the emperor penguins, already pointed to earlier in the talk, nematodes, Adelie and chinstrap penguins. Conservation efforts can certainly be improved by better use of existing instruments. We already know about Antarctic specially protected areas, biosecurity, and many of those activities, but we are not using them as well as we might. And the last program I'll talk about just briefly, because it's a relatively new program, is AGATA. It's about understanding and advancing the current knowledge of the Antarctic atmosphere and geospace, also in the global and hemispheric context. So very much about how the upper atmosphere and space impacts the systems and the climate systems that we see in the Antarctic, and how that impacts long and short-term climate variation. And if you want to get involved with that program, do I have? No, I don't have. Who's the director of that? But if you, again, look to the webpage, the SCAR webpage, you can find it pretty quickly. Okay, so a few of the other activities that SCAR is part of to help get our message out. We talked a bit about that and join with the wider world. Our message wasn't getting out for a minute. For those who haven't heard about it, IPY5, 2032 to 2033, it seems like a long time away, but it's not. There's a lot of planning. We're starting to build the plan now, and we have some programs working out actually what the focus will be in a bipolar sense. Of course, it's not just the Antarctic, it's the Arctic as well. And you can see here, you can go onto the webpage and find this as well, what the timeline is to get to that point. So we hope that in some countries there will be some calls for funding to work on some of this, but there will also be some wider programs. One of those wider programs that you may also have heard about is Antarctica in Sync. That's linked with the decade on ocean science, which will have come to a close before the IPY, but certainly Antarctica in Sync will proceed, but it may well overlap with IPY5, and at the very least IPY5 will be the opportunity to analyse some of the new data collected with the Antarctica in Sync program. And in Sync, for those who are not aware of it, again, it has its own webpage as well, but it's really about making some synchronous measurements around the Antarctic continent to try and solve some of the bigger issues around why we don't see change the same in different places. It's certainly true that many of the models that we utilise, whether they're physical models or ecological models or biological models, will benefit from understanding different parts of the system with measurements at the same time, whether that be continent-wide or whether that be from source to sink of the process, from the interior of the Antarctic through ice shelves, beneath ice shelves, out across the ocean shelf. So that's what the Antarctica InSync is aiming to be about, and they're developing the science program right now. So if you don't know about it, now's the time to get involved. The other thing that I want to bring to your attention is the Antarctic Environments Portal. This is one of the main mechanisms that we utilise to tell the story, but in a sort of policy-ready format. We encourage articles. If you haven't thought about writing an article for the Environments Portal, get in touch with the editor. You get a reference code for it so that you can use it as a proper peer-reviewed article on many of your CVs. So, but it will only be published online. It's a well-utilised go-to place by policymakers. Before the Antarctic Treaty Consultative Meeting, many people access that to find out what the latest is with respect to science. So if you haven't thought about putting articles in, do. If you're approached to do it, please do it, because it actually happens to be one of the main ways of getting our information out to policymakers. Also, our series as a resource is our series on Antarctic climate change and the environment. That is a major summary of the current state. We delivered this to the ATCM 47 in Milan in July, and that's something that we update almost every year, and then in large-scale format in a book like this one, maybe every decade. So it's certainly updated frequently, and the updates are available on the SCAR webpage. It's a really important translation mechanism for policymakers, and you see the infographic on the right-hand side there. You may well want to use it with your communities as well, and you can download this off the SCAR webpage as well. So let's touch on some of the other parts of the strategy that I think are resources potentially for all of you, and also equally, I'll quickly summarise, sorry, getting ahead of myself. So this is the summary of what we delivered to the ATCM in Milan in July. We certainly pointed to the fact that change from global warming is accelerating in Antarctica. I don't think that will surprise any of you in the room. We are now observing measurable change in ice mass, ocean circulation, and ocean freshening. All of these changes have global implications. Sea level rise, slowing of heat transfer around the planet, and slowing of meridional overturning circulation. So this doesn't stay in Antarctica. As we say, what happens in Antarctica doesn't stay, and we have evidence of that now. We pointed out that the world is relying on the ATCM parties to alert them to the significance of the changes being observed in Antarctica and the global reach of those changes. The Antarctic Treaty Consultative member parties are the ones who are aware and should be informing wider governments. Existing conservation efforts are insufficient in an increasingly rapid world, and better use of existing instruments will improve outcomes for at-risk species and environments, in fact. And so we have several initiatives underway in SCAR to fill data gaps and improve predictive capability, and those require our support to succeed across all of the nations. So that's a quick summary of what we let the treaty parties know. Okay, to some of the other parts of the strategy. One thing that you may or may not be aware of, and I hope from today you are aware of, is that the Antarctic Treaty mandates that all scientific results be freely available. And so SCAR provides advice on making sure that the data that we all collect are available, are reposited, are interoperable, and can be used by different groups. So we use the FAIR principles, we advocate for the FAIR principles, findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. And we have a standing committee on Antarctic data management. You can also get in touch with them via the webpage, and they have guidelines on what your data should look like and how it should be reposited. And so if your particular nations are not giving you advice on that, please follow those, because that's a really important part of what SCAR does, making material available, not just through these meetings, but also data, samples, ice cores, biological specimens, etc. Because part of that will help reduce our footprint if we're not recollecting the same material. So that's a very important part of what we do. Another important part of what we do is capacity building and training. We have a number of fellowships, exchange programs, support for training and participation, and in fact medals and awards for achievements. Now those awards are made at the Open Science Conference every 2 years. So if you're in Norway next year or thinking of being there, think about nominating someone to receive that, but also think about applying to SCAR for support to get there. So we can take care of both of those particular things. In terms of communications, I've already talked a little bit about the Environments Portal, the Antarctic Climate Change and the Environment Report. We also give a lecture every year at the Antarctic Treaty, and beyond that, we are present at the UNFCCC, COP meetings, and the International Science Council events. So SCAR, through its organisation, is pretty present, but hopefully many of you are contributing to that as well. Okay, equality, diversity and inclusion. We have an EDI action group, and they are continuing to help SCAR in this group, in this effort. Please connect in with that team. Again, you can find it on the webpage. But this is not just about our differences in different parts of humanity, it's also about our differences with respect to our different nations and how we approach research. And there's lots of advice that you can get from this group, and there's lots of effort that we're putting into how SCAR operates to support the wider team like this. And recently we've developed a draft code of conduct document, and that's really about how we see, as a wider community, appropriate behaviour as all of us as part of the SCAR community. So please pay attention to that, please read it, it'll come out. We'll conduct various surveys. You may well have been asked to contribute to some of those. And the last item there is sustainability. We aim in SCAR to be carbon neutral by 2030. We know, in terms of what we do, that's going to require us to consider offsetting our impact and working on helping reverse the decline in natural carbon sinks. And in fact, as I already alluded to earlier in the talk, the Southern Ocean and the near Antarctic is really rather important in that process. So too's the sub-Antarctic. So we've got a number of initiatives around working hard to provide access to meetings without actually having to travel. We're also recognising, though, that meeting like we are in this room is really important to bring this community together and to get a global understanding and get a global message out. So SCAR is not about reducing our efforts in these meetings, but we will have to look at how we help the rest of the world deal with the carbon sink side of the equation. And so we have an action group within SCAR to help us understand how and what we might do to engage with this challenge of our carbon footprint. And it might be that it's pretty difficult in Antarctica, where we're energy intensive, and we do not want to become impotent when it comes to Antarctic science. So we have to continue to do that, but what we have to do is just help understand what other things can be done to help the planet. So I've talked about most of those things. Particularly one of the things that I think will be important and is already being used, innovative technologies to not only enhance communication and reduce costs, but actually collect the scientific data that we need at the scale we need. So we've got a lot of work with satellites, we've got a lot of work with remote sensing. The more we can do that, the more helpful that will be. Okay. So just to finish up with, and I'll hopefully finish a few minutes early so that we can get out and get the photo taken, a few ways to keep in touch and get involved. Definitely, if you haven't thought about it, think about applying for SCAR fellowships and scholarships. This is not just for early career, this is for senior career as well, to get transfer of information and transfer of knowledge. SCAR encourages people to move around the planet, nominate colleagues for the SCAR medals, and join the relevant SCAR science expert action groups and scientific research programs, just as members to know what's going on, or as parts of the leadership. For those who are not familiar, we have a number of science groups in the geosciences, of course, which many of you are familiar with, but within that, there are action groups, there are expert groups. There are different ways that the community works that you can get engaged with and make sure that you help drive the science as far as policy. Certainly, as you're doing, participate in SCAR events, workshops and conferences, and if I haven't said it enough, please write for the Antarctic Environments Portal. If you have a message that has relevance for policymakers, or even if you have a really important message that you don't know how to get to policymakers, have a conversation with the editorial board of the Environments Portal. And then in terms of keeping in touch, I've said many times, refer to the webpage, www.scar.org, for those who don't know it, or email info@scar.org with any questions or to get signed up or to find out anything. They're pretty responsive. We have an office secretariat in Cambridge in the UK, and so they will usually get back to you the next day, because most of us are on different time zones, but they're very quick to respond and they're very helpful. There is a SCAR newsletter, get signed up for that. It comes out pretty much every month, and that's the place to find it. But it will also be emailed to you if you sign up for it. And you can also sign up to find out about upcoming events and get advanced understanding of what might be happening at the SCAR Open Science Conference in Norway, especially as we think about things like the next horizon scan and working out what the most important questions for Antarctica are. And I think that's probably enough from me to tell you all about SCAR. I will happily talk to you about it at length. That's my job right now, so please talk to me. But for now, thank you very much, and I hope you learn a lot through the week and think perhaps as you look at some posters and what people are doing, maybe you can encourage some of those people to get their work out beyond just this meeting. So thank you very much again, and I look forward to talking to many of you during the week. Just wait a minute till someone organises us.
Thank you, Gary. Bueno, sabemos que viene el coffee break y la foto ahora mismo, ¿ya? Así que es acá afuera, ¿cierto? Así que por favor los invito a... la salida tengo entendido que es por el pasillo. Ahí nos vamos a dar cuenta. Así que por favor, vamos para allá. This is room 1, the next is room 2. Okay?